Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mac Story.
All right, let's get started with part 4 of this 30-part series on my book, Blue Collar Leadership, Leading from the Front Lines. And today we're going to talk about Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is titled, Common Sense is Never Enough. And I love talking about this from the stage and helping people understand, especially in the blue-collar world. We talk about a lot of people not having common sense, right? We need to look in the mirror. How much common sense do we have? And what I'm going to share with you today is common sense means we understand what should be done, but actually doing it often requires uncommon sense. So that's what I want you to think about. Because in this chapter, I actually teach and share with the reader that common sense is not always common practice. And what I mean by that is we define common sense wrong. Whenever we say something's common sense, what we really mean is anyone should understand that they should do it. Like all the stuff I share on these podcasts, every bit of this stuff about leadership development and personal growth, it's all common sense. Nothing's new. But is it common practice? How many people are doing it? When I speak about this, everybody will shake their head. They understand, they agree quickly. Because it is common sense to understand what we should do. However, doing many of the things that we understand requires much more intellectual capacity, meaning we have to have uncommon sense to actually do what's commonly understood. So common sense alone will not lead you to success. It'll help you, but it's not enough. Knowing and doing are two very different things that will lead you to very different results. Think about this for a second. Everybody's going to know this as soon as I say it. Knowing how to lose weight doesn't mean someone who wants to lose weight will lose weight. We all know how to lose weight. It's common sense. I can ask anybody, how do we lose weight? And I ask a lot of times from the audience because I want people to understand. I mean, I ask often from the stage when I'm speaking to an audience because I want people to understand how simple it is to have common sense, but how hard it is to have uncommon sense and actually apply it. So I'll ask, how do we lose weight? Everybody knows. We watch our calories, so calories in, what we eat, and we exercise, or calories out, burning calories. It's common sense. Everybody knows that. There's people listening to this podcast right now, to this episode, who need to lose weight. They know how to do it. It could be you. You know how to do it. It's not some secret on how to lose weight. We all know how to do it. The problem is execution. And I love a quote by Thomas Edison. He says, vision without execution is hallucination. Vision without execution is hallucination. So as we talk about common sense for a little bit, I want you to think about this. To know something and not do it is not truly knowing it. To understand something and not apply it is not truly understanding it. So as you listen to this for yourself, or maybe you're listening to this podcast thinking about growing and developing your team, or both, as you listen to this 30-part series, you need to figure out, how do I develop uncommon sense and actually do this? Just like this little book that I wrote for the frontline entry-level people. Common sense says, hey, if I purchase this book for my team and I lead them through book studies, or I cascade it throughout my organization and have people doing book studies on these chapters so people are learning and applying what's in this book, my team's going to be easier to lead if they lead themselves well. That's common sense. Everybody understands that. However, very few leaders are going to grow and intentionally develop their frontline entry-level team. Some of them do it. I have the pleasure of speaking to them on a regular basis when they take advantage of our 200 book special offer, where they purchase 200 books for $3,600 and we go speak for free. That's pretty cool when they do that. Those folks are investing in and growing their people. They have uncommon sense. Common sense says anybody could do it and should do it, and they're going to have a better team. They're going to get better results. They're going to serve their customers better. They're going to serve each other better. That's common sense. But actually taking this content and cascading it through an organization to get those results requires uncommon sense. So why isn't common sense always common practice? So I want to say I've come to understand the problem is found in the definition of common sense, which I talked about earlier, which leads to our expectations sometimes not being met. And I just want to reiterate this. When someone says something is common sense, they mean it is commonly understood. What most people are missing is this. There's a huge difference between understanding what should be done and doing what is understood. And it often takes more smarts to do something than it does to understand something. That's what I'm talking about. Doing what is commonly understood often requires common sense. So I'll give you a simple example. It's common sense to understand you should invest your time and money into your own personal growth and development. If you want to become more effective and successful at work, which will also improve your life when you're at home. You understand that, right? The more effective and successful you are at work, the better your life's going to be when you're not at work. Common sense, right? You agree? If you want to be better, you need to get better. Again, that's common sense. If you want to be better, you need to get better. And of course, that's common sense. And you're listening to this podcast, so that right there is uncommon sense in itself, just choosing to listen to a podcast to grow and develop yourself. But even a higher level of intellectual capacity is taking this information and doing something with it intentionally to grow and develop yourself or your team. Are you doing it frequently and regularly? Is this the first time you listen to a podcast? Or do you listen to all types of leadership development podcasts? Do you read books? I know you're listening right now, but again, is this the first time or is this the 1,000th time? So think about that. Leadership is influence. The more influence you have, the more options you will have at work and at home. Think about it. Who will get a promotion? The person with the most influence or someone else? It's always the person with the most influence. Who will have a more enjoyable day at work or at home? A person with more influence or less? Go home and try to make it through the evening without any influence and see how happy you are. And I want to share a quote from Les Brown. Pretty cool quote I heard Les say a long time ago, and I wrote it down and I stuck it in the chapter 4 in this book on common sense. But think about what Les says right here. Les says, the top 5% of achievers invest an average of $3,000 per year on personal growth, while the other 95% average only $7 per year. Common sense says if we invest in ourselves, we're going to get better results. But it takes uncommon sense to actually invest in and develop ourselves. How many books are you buying? How many books are you reading? It's not only money, it's time, right? When's the last time you've been to any type of leadership development, personal growth seminar? I remember for many years, all I did was buy books and read them. I was investing $20 or so in a book. And I'd read it and I'd invest another $20. But after so many years of doing that, I took it to an entirely new level. And the first leadership seminar that I ever went to was about $800 for a day with John Maxwell, actually talking about how to write books. That's why I went. I wanted to write my books. I didn't have any at that time. And then while I was there, I learned about another conference that he was doing and a part of. And that conference cost $5,000 just for 3 days. And not only did I sign myself up, but I signed up my 21-year-old son, Eric, at the time. So that was the second time that I had ever invested money like that. And instead of buying four-wheelers and going on fancy vacations and just wasting money, I started investing in myself. And that was in 2012. So this is 6 years later. Today I have 12 books written. I've been paid up to $20,000 to speak on these books. I have people who have paid me up to $750 an hour to coach them. And I don't do this for the money. Again, I'm doing this podcast. I ain't getting paid. I'm doing it to make a difference, the same way I do everything else. But because I've become more valuable, I've become more successful. And people value that, and they're willing to pay for it. So think about yourself. How much do you spend in a year on personal growth and development? How many dollars and how many hours? It's going to take both. And it's so easy to separate yourself from the crowd. Again, common sense says if you do this, you're going to become exceptional quickly. But it takes uncommon sense to do it. If we invest in ourselves and become intentional about moving ourselves forward, we will move forward. Our personal and professional lives will get better. Most people, again, will instantly agree, but most people don't do it, and most people won't do it. Instead, most people choose to waste more money on a weekend hanging out at the beach, in the mountains, hunting, fishing, golfing, all this stuff that people do while they're miserable at work or maybe miserable at home or potentially both. All they're doing is escaping. I used to be that guy. I thought I loved my job, but I still was escaping on the weekend. So again, just to kind of wrap this section up, just remember this. It'll take much more than common sense to apply what you're going to be learning throughout the rest of this series. Every chapter that I share, every segment of this 30-part series, you're going to be thinking, common sense. This is common sense. It's common sense. Mike's not telling me anything new. There is nothing new under the sun when it comes to leadership. It's all old. These principles are old. But you got to develop and use uncommon sense to get the results you deserve and are capable of achieving. You with me? You can apply all of this stuff, but will you apply it? I hope you do. So I want to leave you with a quote by Liz Wiseman, and we'll wrap up part 4 of 30. And Liz Wiseman says, "The critical skill of this century is not what you hold in your head, but your ability to tap into and access what other people know. The best leaders and the fastest learners know how to harness collective intelligence." And again, that was Liz Wiseman. And that's what you're doing right now, listening to this podcast. You're tapping into my intelligence. Where did I learn all this information? From reading hundreds of books and listening to thousands of hours of audios and videos where I've been tapping into other people's intellectual capacity. And now I'm sharing it with you. And you may read lots of other books and listen to other podcasts. When you do it, you're doing the exact same thing. You're tapping into and accessing what other people know. And then you have to figure out what I need to take from that and apply in my life to improve my results. So that's it for today. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.